So we move to the Fireside Chat audio series, the new Blockbuster engine. And clearly it is a blockbuster because it has been doing so well in the last couple of years or so. And for that we have Suyog Gothi, Head India and New Markets Pocket FM in conversation with Anil NM Wanvari, founder, chairman and editor-in-chief, IndianTelevision.com Group. Please, can we have you all on stage, gentlemen? Anil
Hey
sir, we
guys.
trust you to dig into the details.
Hey guys, call your friends from outside inside because there's a lot of money to be made in audio and people think it's boring, but it's a place where these guys are leading the market and they're doing great stuff out there. Call your friends from outside inside, please, quickly. All right. This is for writers, for directors, for producers. Okay. So Suyog, I'm going to leave the stage to you to talk a hell of a lot because people have not come to listen to me. They've come to listen to you, how they can make money out of audio, podcast and all the likes. So over to you. Tell us a bit about Pocket FM. Tell us how you can enrich the creators. Tell us, you've raised a lot of money. Tell us about the success you've achieved with your 4 audio series, which have crossed 100 crores. Tell us about everything that you can about micropayments, about how you pay off the writers. How do you make sure that everyone in the value chain is enriched?
Definitely. Thanks, Anil. I think humble beginnings for us, some small wins and some more audacious goals also in the future. Actually, most of us don't actually come from a content background, which is also why there's no creative bias in terms of what you want to experiment and do. Also one of the reasons why we've succeeded as much. To be honest, I'll just talk about how we thought about or conceived the idea of working on audio series in general. Typically, we commuted to office, we traveled in metros, and audio songs and podcasts were the only 2 mediums of or formats in the audio space which users were listening to. And after some point in time, it actually grows monotonous. You can't listen to or binge onto that content for a long period of time. Also, the entertainment factor per se was missing in the audio space today. Unlike video, where there are short videos to longer formats in terms of movies, OTT series as well, there's a huge need gap in terms of longer form content in the audio space that people could actually binge on. We also drew inspiration from certain content creators on YouTube who are actually hacking a video platform for promoting the audio content typically, just with a video thumbnail and getting millions and millions of views. So pretty certain that people want to listen to it, they have the time to listen to audio content, and it was just about seeding the idea in the audio space. Through a lot of experimentation, research, user discussions, and focus group discussions, we landed on audio series as a category today, and I'll demystify that for the group as well. So audio series typically is audio storytelling in an episodic format. So most of the stories that have worked are 200-hour-long stories that people can binge onto from one episode to the other. An individual episode is not content in its entirety, but it holds the entire story together in a compelling manner that users want to listen to one episode after the other, typically. This is something that helps us get in the right kind of installs in India. We are at a 130 million install base across the globe today. We've probably not made the right noise and the right fraternity, but I think through all of these discussions, we really hope to sort of venture into all of these things. Now, this is how we started audio series in general, right? What we focused on were 3 pillars of the platform. The first pillar of the platform was focusing on the right set of content creators. So we have a 2.5 lakh writer community who's actually writing content on the app today across genres, across different stories that appeal to the audience, to the 130 million base that we have today. So that's a very, very strong pillar that we've been focusing on. The second pillar is the format, right? The long form audio series format in itself creates binge-worthy content. So on an average, a listener listens to our audio series for about 120 minutes a day. Now, you would imagine who would have the time to listen to 2 hours of content on a daily basis, right? But that's what the data shows. And people are actually in need of binge-worthy content in the audio space on a daily basis. With that, we coupled a very unique monetization model. So up until now, we've not taken anything from incumbent players in the market in terms of the strategy, content strategy, or even the monetization model as such. So we tested a lot of models, we tried subscriptions, we tried a lot of other models as well, and we ended up with a freemium model where users can get free episodes per show and continue getting free episodes per show every day. If they want to binge on more content, they can pay for it and pay as you consume. So maybe you can just buy coins for listening to 10 hours of content on the app, and as you consume that, you can then pay for more as well, right? So we gave the freedom to the user to choose which shows they wanted to listen to, get them hooked onto the particular story, and then kept it open for them to consume as much content as they want. Now, which has led us to 150 million ARR as of December 31st. We just concluded our last round of funding last month, $100 million from Lightspeed and Stepstone. The playbook that we've built is also established in India and the US. So typically, we're a very tech and data-driven company as such, with very limited creative bias, and we actually leave the floor open to any content writers, production house, or voiceover artists to come onto the platform, start contributing, and understand whether the user has an appeal for that kind of content as well, right? This was a broad journey that we sort of, we started a company in 2018 and now it's 2024. So up until now, cut to 2024, we have 4 series that have crossed 100 crores in revenue, about 15 more which are on the brink of crossing the 100 crore revenue in global markets. And we want to sort of continually churn Blockbuster one after the other. I think it's...
Guys, I'm going to pause him let's give him a round of applause for getting another stream of revenue for you guys in the audience. 100 crores in revenue. Wowee. You've got my mouth watering.
Per show for each of those 4 shows, and 15 more to follow suit very soon, right? So it's actually an entertainment category that we are creating. We're not competing with the rest. You could call us competitors, but this is a niche that we've created for ourselves. And there is enormous incentivization, monetization for the writers that are on the platform today. I'll talk about that as well going forward. Now this is broadly a journey as to how we sort of got the installs, etc. I'd like to talk about the platform that we've built for the writers, which is very democratic in nature, right? Now, I think I hear an axiom in the content industry, I would say, is, I don't know what could work, let's put it out, let's see if it works, and let's start building on it as well, right? So the hit rate is something that everybody contests. Nobody knows what could work, and we've also seen that in previous panel discussions. But imagine a platform with 130 million listeners who are giving real-time feedback to writers on what is working, what isn't. The willingness to listen to an episode, the willingness to pay for an episode, the kind of user comments on each episode is what the writers consume and chart the course of the next part of the story. So we have that leeway because the stories are pretty long in nature, and the longer arcs, the characters, and the storytelling can be built based on the user feedback. So typically the writer community works on 3 different principles. One is independence on the kind of content that you would want to launch, obviously with certain content moderation guidelines that we have. So they could pick up any genre, any trope, any story, etc., and start experimenting and start writing on the platform. The second part is an incentivization model, typically where there's a revenue share that we do with the writers today, which helps them earn a daily living. We have Jigyasa today who will be speaking in a panel discussion after this as well. And the third part is to inspire other fellow writers in the community, right? Through actually showing some validations and wins that we can give to the writers. It's a two-sided play. You can't, and it's complementing each other, right? There are users on one side who want to listen to content, who want to consume more content, and then there are writers on the other side who are creating content for those set of users. You can't have less listeners and more content. You can't have less content and more listeners. That won't work. Our job is to ensure that maintaining a balance, a democratic balance in terms of what content users want to listen to, and sort of give directions to the writers with respect to concept notes, pitch docs, etc., on what are the kind of flavors that are working in the market today, right? Another good thing that we've seen is that while there is adaptation needed across different languages, so we're live in India and US. In India, English and Hindi are the primary languages, but we've also started 6 native languages, and we've got tremendous response. We've also launched in LATAM markets in Europe, in UK and Germany, and we'll be launching in a few markets very soon. But what we've realized is, while there is a flavor of local adaptation and culture needed for each language, but a typical story is working across all languages for us, right? So a typical rags to riches story, which is Instamillionaire, which is the biggest blockbuster we've had, is working enormously well across the region. So imagine the kind of global appeal that an Indian writer or any community writer can get with the right kind of marketing, promotion, and the right kind of discovery that the users can get today.
And how much money can he make?
Exactly.
Out of the 100 crores, how much did he get?
Exactly. So there are different revenue share models for the writers, depending on the kind of content, the genres that they work in, and the kind of listeners there are on the platform. But it's standard across all writers today on the platform for the 2.5 lakh writers that we have across the globe.
So let's take an estimate. How much would the writer on the 100 Insta millionaire have made?
Sure. So I think I won't talk about specifics as such, but in general, typically for a script or a particular show, there are writers who are continually making money, and there are writers who made 30, 40 lakhs per show as well, and they will continue to doing so across regions, across and over the time, right? Now, for example, Rags to Riches is a story that will appeal to every era there is, even 5 years later, and we'll keep promoting the set of shows. So it is compounded income over the years to come, technically.
Great. And how does a writer reach out to you? You have 2.5 lakh writers on the platform, and how do there's so many of them, and how do you select what you have to put up there, and how do they get your attention?
So there's a common platform that we're promoting for writers. There's a user-generated community that we have today, where writers can register themselves with a small 2 or 3 click process today and get started writing, right? There's a lot of curation needed or hand-holding needed for them to understand the data that we get, right? It's a very tech and data-driven approach to solving for content, which is very real-time in nature, right? Imagine you know that there is an appeal to a particular episode or a particular character you've introduced in a particular episode, right? You could continually actually make 20 to 30 hours of the story just based on that character, based on the user feedback. Now, this is something that is very different from what happens in the industry today.
And how different it is writing for audio series versus writing for television or writing for film? How different is it? And how difficult is it? Or is it as easy or is it as difficult?
I think it's a skill in itself which can be developed, to be honest. Typically, there have been novels in the market, right? But probably not marketed in the right way as yet. But storytelling, in a sense, remains the same. Obviously, the format, which is the long-form format that we have, is very different in terms of looking at the broader arc of the story and ensure the users are bound to the story for 200 hours long is something that are the skills that your writers develop with us. And we have senior writers in the community, etc., who are on board full-time working with us, who assist these junior writers in this entire process.
So you have the usual cliffhangers at the end of the episode, and like it's on television, or does it work differently?
So all of this content is exclusive to us, only available on the Pocket FM app today, with 100 million plus installs across the globe.
No, I was talking about the creative arcs, etc., the story. At the end of the episode, you leave them hanging for the next episode.
Yes. That's typically how we retain users from one episode to the other. But what we've seen is if a user is hooked onto a story, if the story has an appeal, right, there's a very high probability that he'll listen to 100, 200, 300 hours of the same story, continually generate revenue for the writers and for us as a platform.
So, do you expect a flood of writers to come in further than the 2.5 lakh that you have on board?
Definitely. And we're heavily invested the last round of funding that we've raised. A good proportion, a good chunk of it is to sort of enable the writer community to help them earn a living out of writing only with Pocket FM exclusively.
What about the producer, director?
So we do have certain marketing aspects of how we promote a show, where we do work with certain production houses. But to be honest, there's not a big deal of production needed as such in the audio space today, right? There are certain benchmarks with respect to having multicast or unicast audio stories today, but there are many levers that we have. I think the big forte that we have is I think we're probably able to market the stories in a much better format through videos, through audio as well, where we actually work with a host of production houses today in the market.
Okay, now where do you see Pocket FM traveling globally? You are in the US. You're in. Are you moving to LATAM also in a bigger way? Are you moving to North America rather than just the US, Canada, Europe, or Southeast Asia?
Yes. So the good thing for us is that the playbook has worked in India and the US, which is contributing to majority of the revenue. We've also launched in UK, Germany, and a few other geographies where there are already early wins. So pretty sure that this model is going to scale across all geographies. And there could be stories that could work globally, like majority of stories could appeal to global audiences as well, right? Having said that, I think the broader investment is also in generative AI. It's a buzzword, but I think I'll sort of simplify that in layman terms today, right? We use AI, generative AI, for creating, curating, recommending, and scaling content as well, right? It helps us get down content costs significantly, helps us pull back timelines. It helps writers understand or assist them with creating characters and assist them to help with what could work, potentially what couldn't, right? In terms of the writing skills in general. That's something that we are heavily betting on.
So what are you betting on? ChatGPT or what are you?
Not really. There are various tools out there. I'm sorry. There are various tools out there in the market. ChatGPT is probably one of the tools that we can use. It's predominantly used in English today, but we also see local flavors of it cropping up in the next 6 months or so.
Okay, and is it only English, Hindi, or is it also regional languages?
It is also regional languages now. I think the next step for us is to penetrate deeper into the geographies that we've already established our foothold in. There's been huge demand from our users in native languages to launch the same shows. And we're live in 6 native languages today, apart from Hindi and English in India. We are live in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Bengali, and Marathi, and penetrating deeply in those languages. And we'll launch more languages as well. Typically, what we realize is the kind of users, right? The binge-worthy monetization model that we have, the pay-as-you-go monetization model, works across all geographies today. And similar set of shows are also picking up very well in other regions as well, with the flavor of local adaptation.
So you've cracked the puzzle of micropayments.
Yes.
And that is through partners or through...
You're
You're a PhonePe character, right? You worked in PhonePe before this.
Yes.
So you have an understanding of fintech.
Definitely. I think it's more to do with the freemium model today, right? Where users get a flavor or a taste of what kind of content, what kind of characters there are in a particular story before investing in a particular story. And our trial packs start as low as 9 and 19 rupees. Now imagine that's a very low barrier to entry for anybody trying to listen to audio content or trying to want to listen to a story that we've developed today.
Okay, any last words? Because I see Yash Thakur, who's a writer himself. I see him licking his chops because he's probably going to approach you with some stories himself. And he's also hosting the show today for us. So any last words for the audience?
I think we will continue building our playbook for what has worked. We will continue investing in building and incentivizing the writer community, and we look forward to representation on all aspects, either as freelancers or as full-time employees also with Pocket FM. And we're sort of here to stay because we've built a monetization model that is not dependent on external funding, but our India and US revenue numbers, which is $150 million, is actually fueling the growth for the next set of geographies as well. The broader vision in general is to just not restrict Pocket FM as an audio series platform, but to look at Pocket FM as a pocket entertainment platform as a whole, agnostic of the format of the content, agnostic of different verticals or genres that we may create. But that's the broader vision that we're looking at.
Audio is going to be the main focus, though.
It is the focus right now, but we're also investing heavily in some other formats that could scale very, very fast in other regions as well.
You don't want to talk about that?
Not yet.
All right. Yash, I'm not going to keep you nervous anymore. Thank you very much for being in a very rapt audience, very attentive audience. And over to you, Yash. Thank you for being a part of this and having a conversation with me.
Anil sir, we would like you to felicitate Mr. Suyog, please.
Yeah. How many of you guys are making a beeline for him after this? Writers, 30 lakh that we heard, we used to hear only in films. Of course, now it's gone up to crores now.
Come on, guys, a big round of applause, please.